Hi, my name is Matt. Welcome to Unbearable 73. So it's time for my Stranger Things Season 1, Episode 4 review, Chapter 4, The Body. Production continues. Visuals are amazing. Direction, top solid. Even though it's a different director this episode. Writing, acting, top notch, all that, blah, blah, blah. The audio is very immersive. It keeps me thinking, remember back to my youth in the 80s, I grew up with all the sort of stuff that they're basing this on, basically. So let's get to the plot. This doesn't need to be a long, belabored review. Now, for one thing, the first thing I should say, all that sort of manic, depressive energy that's been building, where certain characters are having mental health issues, obviously, because of circumstances, like Joyce and her little son, now Nancy with Barb, and so forth. It all went somewhere this episode. It's been building for a while. You've been seeing more and more behavior, but you didn't really see acting out. Joyce, boom, So let's get to Joyce first, because Winona Ryder was the main star of this episode. And speaking from someone of the perspective who I describe myself as being in remission from mental illness, because I think of it kind of more like cancer than anything else. I've suffered from severe depression, anxiety, PTSD, mood swings, panic attacks, whatever. So I kind of see the path that Joyce is being written on to travel down in her journeys through this show so far. So Winona Ryder, she was excellent in the episode. Her performance balancing the mania between her son being missing, knowing her son is out there and alive, and also knowing that no one believes her, and therefore they won't actually be rescuing a child. Her performance was excellent. She took all that into account in the way she acted the role out, and the way they wrote the role. And the big culmination was when she was smashing the crap out of that wall, and then just to find nothing. Like, that's the proper outcome of, there's a technique called subverting your expectations, where it was used very badly in The Last Jedi. This is the proper use here. You saw how we were built as the audience towards something happening when she did the smash the wall, and then when nothing happened, it subverted our expectations, but in a good way. Not in a way that said, oh, darn, I'm not going to watch the show again, or destroyed our character. This showed how frustrating the experience is for her. We experienced it ourselves. We experienced our frustration at that moment by them subverting our expectations that we in that circumstance with our frustration. Now, why does this episode feel different? Well, the first three episodes, they had their peak moments, kind of like a sine wave, and their valley moments. I don't mean that in terms of good and bad. I mean that more like high pace versus low pace. Pacing is very important. Like, people misunderstand a lot of times why they don't like something, even though it could be well written or whatever, directed, have the greatest actors in the world. If the pacing's off, you're not really going to get into it. You'll get bored at parts, and your mind will wander. Maybe you'll start thinking about next day at work or what I want to watch after this, and then something cool happens, but you're kind of ignoring it because the pacing kept you out of the film. Because you're bored. Likewise, if there's constant top level pacing, or you're constantly having to get excited for events, eventually that wears off, and you kind of like, oh, not this again. But this show flips back and forth very well. So you could describe this episode kind of like fireworks exploding constantly compared to the last one, where it was like the Mission Impossible slow burn. There was little if no downtime, and what downtime there was that slowed the pace was still higher paced than most of the last three episodes. Now, next thing here, I continue to be impressed with David Harbour's performance as Sheriff Hopper. Not only his performance, though, with the construction and presentation of the show by the storylines. This is an excellent point of actor meeting storyline, much like in the TV show called From, which I reviewed the season 1 of. And the actor's name I can't pronounce, so I'm going to look it up for you, because I don't want to mess this up. So let's go. TV show From. And of course, if I could spell right, From TV show. Here we go. And of course, Wikipedia can't find it, so I'll just ask Google. It's one thing when you name a show generically like that. Anyway. So Harold Perrineau, I can't remember. He played Boyd Stevenson From. He's I mean, Frum's good in general, but he's carrying it. You should go watch it just for his performance alone. And Winona Ryder is doing the same thing here in this show so far. Not saying well, and also I was mentioning David Harbour. David Harbour, again, he's elevating that in the same way. The reason I compare him to Harold Perrineau and Frum is because Perrineau plays the sheriff in a supernatural situation as well, with that show. Now, kind of the only two moments where I was a little like, one was like a what the fuck moment, was when the D&D crew somehow knew to make 11 look more like a normal girl. I was like, okay, fine, they could pick a dress out, whatever. But like then he knew how to do makeup. I mean, kind of a little weird. Not that they're weird knowing that, but like that. It's not weird for a male to know that. It is weird that they all knew that in this circumstance. Okay. And then kind of another hum moment was when it sent that guy Shepard into the other dimension without any sort of weapon. I mean, you know there's hostile crap about, and you send a guy in to another dimension, you don't at least give him a gun? I didn't see one anyway. Now, on 11, I like how her abilities are not the kind of standard psychic powers. I mean, they kind of are in a way. She has telekinesis and some sort of, what was it called? Distance. There's a name for it, where you can see stuff, like a reading power that they, which they actually did real CIA experiments on this which kind of, I guess, where the 80s, where they're pulling the plot from. Not that the ability is real, but the CIA actually did real experiments to see if it was real. Remote viewing. Okay? So I kind of like how she connects to an electrical capacity, as opposed to just having the power or whatever. It also gives, because she's currently nonverbal, it gives a way to express what she's doing that they could use an environmental effect for. And I liked the resolution to how they dealt with the bullies laughing about Will's death. I like that Mike stood up and, I'm not advocating violence, but as someone who was bullied when I was younger, and, I found it stopped when I asserted myself, and my family was right to tell me to assert myself. At least in the Italian community, that was our solution. It worked. And I liked how Mike got in the guy's face. And then I liked how they were able to resolve that, well, the bully got a comeuppance, but they didn't have to depict the actual violent part of it. Because of what 11 did when she made him, stand in place and urinate and all that. But I wonder if that was the fear of being held against his will that caused him to have the animal reaction of urinating, or she actually did something to him. Plus, 11 backing Mike up felt right. Like she, Mike. Well, anyway, they're portraying two kids starting a good friendship the right way. And the last thing I will comment about, the way the plot lines all start to sync up in this episode as things went on was very well done. It actually reminded me of the scene coordination at the end of The Godfather. So my final thoughts. I enjoyed the episode overall. There were a couple of what the fuck moments that I mentioned above. Still a great episode. I'd give it a 9.5 out of 10. Comment down below if you have any questions for me about this video or anything else. Share this video if you enjoyed it. Like if you like, dislike if you dislike. Subscribe if you want to hear more from me. My name is Matt. This has been Unbearable 73. Have a nice day. I am out of here.